everybody. It's very hard to follow Ernie Carpenter and Carol, and I always thank Lucky Stars that Supervisor Carrillo and our board of directors at the Sonoma County saw fit to bring Carol on as the director of regional parks, because she carries on what George represented. I know when I left today, much like Carol woke up and saw what a beautiful morning it was, although cold, all the birds were around. I had different birds than the blue jays. I had a hawk. I saw some songbirds on the way out here going through Stumble Creek. And I had a chance to get here early and to talk to many of you who meant so much. And there's a bit of fear when you're trying to come eulogize the person that you love so much and meant so much to each of us. And such a great storyteller. So I thought, when my daughter this morning said, "Dad, you know exactly what you're going to say?" And I had to say, "No, I don't." I said, "George was the best rider I knew. He was a dear friend, and we're going to miss him." She said, "Just say that." So I said that. He had a great sense of humor too. George, you know, if anyone else was, I already lost on you that we've kept a fire burning all week, and we had a Spare the Air Day all week at the same time. George would love that. A couple of stories I want to share. Bear with me for a minute, but I thought the only way I can tell a couple of stories about George is if we all spend about 20 seconds or so in our own way thinking about George, because he was something to everybody different. So take about 20 seconds, please close your eyes and think about George. Okay, so we're all thinking about George. My story begins with the family who loved you so much. I used to hear about it. Your sons, the daughter, Sarah, George, really what you were his first priority. I know that for a fact. I had the unique position to be trying to get George to come work for me. He was at the Chronicle at the time, and I saw the same character traits that Ernie did, which is somebody with such a fascinating background and an ability to tell stories. And the only way I can tell this is if you each know that you have your own story with George. So mine has to do with trying to find a way to get him out of the Chronicle and come to a nonprofit that I was running called the Bay Institute. I was the executive director for 10 years, and we were working a lot in the North Bay, Marin and Sonoma County. And I thought that if I kept at it and I offered George a position, I just might get him to come up from the Chronicle and locate our nonprofit, so we could tell all the wonderful stories about our organization and about what we were about, trying to protect California's water supply and protect San Francisco Bay. Well, before we were able to go that path, George wrote an article at the Chronicle. It was about riparian restoration. All the ranchers that are working in this region, coming through Stumble Creek and Occidental, out into the watersheds, Dutchville and whatnot, through the RCDs. It was called The Sweet Sound of Success, and if you have time, it was far too long for me to go into, but it was a really beautiful piece, and it was in 2000, right about Earth Day 2000, and I kept expecting George to write about the Bay Institute and our straw program, and if anybody that's ever worked with George knows you cannot manage him. And this is before, so I'm trying. George promised. When George promised, you know he was going to do it. He promised to get a story out in the Chronicle that I knew would really tell our story and help raise some money to keep doing restorations. And it took so long. It was at least a year beyond when we thought it was going to appear. But the story is what he produced. It wasn't just about the Bay Institute or our straw program. It was in the context of all of the groups that were doing work to restore the environment, protect this wonderful landscape, the ranchers, the RCDs, the Fish and Wildlife Commission, the Department of Fish and Game. I think about the only group that didn't get in there was Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, and it may have been just that the editor happened to cut it out, but he got everybody. He got just about everybody, and it was such a good story. I know the Bay Institute used that piece of work and still does to this day. about all of the songbirds coming back and restoring the environment and how magical this place is. And that's what George represented to me. And it's why I wanted him at the Bay Institute. And I don't know whether Sarah will ever forgive me for doing it, but he did come to the Bay Institute. He wrote and wrote and wrote, and he weaved stories that I still cherish. So I know he meant the world to each and every one of us. We're going to miss him dearly. About the only thing that lets me continue to have strength is that I know his spirit lives on in his family and his kids and his grandkids. And I think I'll follow up with what Carol said, which is to go out, redouble your efforts, think of George, think about what he meant, know that he's still with us, looking down at everything that we do, and know that we had a tribute to walk on this earth with him. So George, we love you and we're going to miss you.